Hi everyone. In this exercise, we'll practice calculating payroll tax expense and write the related journal entry. As always, I strongly recommend that you download and print the worksheets that accompany this lecture so you can follow along with this video and practice calculating payroll tax expense. Let's take a look at our schedule. We are given the following information for Sierra Company. The company has 3 employees: Megan Smith in the shipping department, Sam Levitz, also in the shipping department, and George Arts in the office department. We are given the year-to-date gross wage through September 30th. We are also given gross wages to be paid for the month of October for each employee, and we are given details about wage bases and tax rates. In this problem, the FICA Social Security taxes are 6.2% on the first $127,300 of wages paid to its employees during the calendar year. FICA Medicare taxes are 1.45% on all gross wages. FUTA taxes are 0.6%, and SUTA taxes are 2.9% on the first $7,000 paid to each employee during the calendar year. Our job is to calculate gross wages for the month of October that are subject to Social Security taxes, Medicare taxes, and FUTA and SUTA taxes. Using the information we just obtained, we will then calculate the employer payroll tax expense for the month of October, and we will write the journal entry necessary to record these payroll taxes. It is very important to understand that the year-to-date gross wages have already been paid to employees, and all payroll taxes on the year-to-date wages have already been paid. The only reason we need the year-to-date gross wage column is to see if any employee has exceeded or is bumping up against a wage base. Let's practice. Megan Smith. Before October, Megan had already earned $5,900 in gross wages. This is not even close to the FICA Social Security wage base given in this problem of $127,300. Accordingly, all of her $1,500 gross wage for the month of October is subject to Social Security tax. So put $1,500 in the FICA Social Security wages column. There is no limit on wages subject to FICA Medicare tax, so all $1,500 of Megan's October salary is subject to Medicare tax. Put $1,500 in the FICA Medicare wage column. Before October, Megan had already earned $5,900 in gross wages. This is not quite in excess of the FUTA and SUTA wage base of $7,000. But by the time October wage of $1,500 is paid, she will exceed the wage base. So some of her October wages will be subject to FUTA and SUTA tax, and some will be exempt. The easiest way to make this calculation is to subtract the prior year-to-date gross from the wage base. That will calculate the remaining salary subject to FUTA and SUTA tax for the rest of the year. $7,000 wage base minus her $5,900 prior year-to-date salary equals $1,100 of wages still subject to FUTA and SUTA tax. The rest of her gross wages are exempt from FUTA and SUTA tax, so put $1,100 in the FUTA and SUTA wages column. Sam Levitz. Before October, Sam had already earned and been paid $17,000 in gross wages. This is not even close to the FICA Social Security wage base of $127,300. Accordingly, all of his $2,500 in gross wages for the month of October is subject to Social Security tax, so put $2,500 in the FICA Social Security wages column. There is no limit on wages subject to FICA Medicare tax, so all $2,500 of Sam's October salary is subject to Medicare tax. Put $2,500 in the FICA Medicare wages column. Before October, Sam had already earned $17,000 in gross wages. This is in excess of the FUTA and SUTA wage base of $7,000. Accordingly, all FUTA and SUTA taxes have already been paid for Sam, and all of his October wages are exempt from FUTA and SUTA tax. So put 0 in the FUTA and SUTA wages column for Sam. George Arts is next. Before October, George had already earned $123,700 in gross wages. This is not quite in excess of the FICA Social Security wage base of $127,300 given in the problem. By the time the October wage of $5,500 is paid, he will exceed the wage base. So some of his October wages will be subject to Social Security tax and some will be exempt. The easiest way to make that calculation is to subtract the prior year-to-date gross from his wage base. That will calculate the remaining salary subject to FICA Social Security tax for the rest of the year. $127,300 wage base minus his year-to-date gross wage through September 30th, on which all taxes have already been paid, $123,700, equals $3,600 of wages still subject to Social Security tax. The rest of his gross wages are exempt from Social Security tax for the rest of the calendar year. So put $3,600 in the FICA Social Security wages column. There is no limit on wages subject to FICA Medicare tax, so all $5,500 of George's October salary is subject to Medicare tax. Put $5,500 in the FICA Medicare wages column. Before October, George had already earned $123,700 in gross wages. This is in excess of the FUTA and SUTA wage base of $7,000. Accordingly, all FUTA and SUTA tax has already been paid for George, and all of his October wages are exempt from FUTA and SUTA tax. So put 0 in the FUTA and SUTA columns. Now, total up all of the columns. For the month of October, Sierra Company paid $7,600 of wages subject to Social Security tax. The amount of October wages paid that are subject to FICA Medicare tax is $9,500, and the amount of October wages subject to FUTA and SUTA tax is $1,100. Now we can easily calculate Sierra Company's payroll tax expense for the month of October. FICA Social Security taxable wages of $7,600 times 6.2% equals $471.20. $9,500 of FICA Medicare taxable wages times 1.45% equals $137.75. $1,100 of FUTA taxable wages times 0.6% equals $6.60. And $1,100 of SUTA taxable wages times 2.9% equals $31.90. Therefore, the total payroll tax expense for the company for the month of October is $647.45. Now let's write the October 31st journal entry to record these payroll tax expense. We won't actually remit payment of these taxes to the governmental agencies until a later date. So we have a liability for each type of payroll tax. The journal entry almost writes itself from the schedule shown here. We need to debit payroll tax expense and credit the liability for each type of tax. Payroll tax expense, $647.45 debit. Credit, FICA taxes payable, $471.20. Credit, FICA Medicare taxes payable, $137.75. Credit, FUTA taxes payable, $6.60. Credit, SUTA taxes payable, $31.90. That's all for this video. In the next video, we'll calculate the amount to be withheld from the employee's gross wage. We'll calculate their net paycheck, and we'll write the related journal entry. See you next time.